Well, welcome everybody to this live stream where we're going to be checking out this renewed, revitalized, reconstituted, repurposed Singer 401A from 1961. And as easily as it's buzzing through this protected full grain leather right now, it was not doing that when it arrived at the workshop until there was a lot of motor work done to it. And I'm going to show you kind of a rewind of the initial evaluation of that motor before we launch too much further into sew-offs with this. Hey, Emma. Hi, Paula. And I'll tell you what our setup is today for this 401A out of, I didn't even tell you yet. It's out of Brooklyn, New York. I love saying it like that. I just do. It's out of Brooklyn, New York, and it belongs to Sibel Gill, Gill from Brooklyn, New York. And this is just our initial kind of goofing around with this protected full grain leather. And already this machine is impressing me with that stitch quality. We're sewing with a size 90-14 universal needle. And I'm sewing again because I really kind of like this stuff. I kind of just tried it the other time that we did that premiere, and now I'm kind of hooked on it. I'm hooked on it. I'm addicted. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I'm addicted to 100% silk thread, which is what we're using right now. And again, we're defying all odds by sewing protected full grain leather using silk thread, 100% silk thread. And it's laying down stitching on this protected full grain leather that is absolutely brag-worthy. Absolutely brag-worthy. Just gorgeous, gorgeous stitching, as you can see. And if I turn it over and you have a chance to look at lock stitching, that's equally gorgeous lock stitching as well. Again, silk thread is surprisingly strong. It gets a bad rap where you'll see a number of posts and a number of blogs where they say, you can't use this stuff hardly at all. They're almost comparing it to the 100% rayon stuff that I had the one time that breaks so easily. It breaks so easily. But this silk thread by Gutermann not only can sew leather, but it can sew leather beautifully. Protected full grain leather like this. both the top stitch, as you can see in the shot, and also the lock stitch as well. So without repeating myself too much, let me take you over to the computer and let's do a little rewind. I want to show you where this machine started as far as power, and then I'm going to demonstrate a power test on it real quick, not with a load. I'm just going to spin it up to show you the peak revolutions on this motor now. And then we're going to jump into the sewing, and you're going to be involved in this live stream big time. I'm going to have you pick all of the stitches that we do during this live stream. And I've done that before, I think, and it was kind of fun. So let's go over to the computer. And I'm going to look across the room at, where are we? Okay, stop that. What I want to do is I want to revisit where this machine was at as far as power. So bear with me for a second. If you didn't catch this live stream, you got to check it out. It's titled Initial Evaluation Meet Sibel Gill's 1961 Singer 401A, shipped from Brooklyn, New York, power lacking ? It's one of the recent live streams that we did, so you got to check it out. But watch what power we had, and then I'll do a power test on this machine now. There's nothing that's going to get bent. There's nothing that's going to get damaged resting a machine like this. And it's ridiculously stable too, so it's not going to tip over on you either, which is great. But when I get a machine in, I try to do an initial evaluation of it. One of the big things I noticed about this Slant-O-Matic right away, and I'll bring it back down to a resting position, now that we know it's from 1961, a final edition of the 401A that was made in Anderson, South Carolina. So I try to do an initial evaluation. One of the things I try to evaluate, assuming there's no frayed wiring or anything like that, I try to evaluate what kind of power the machine has. And one of the things Sibel told me is, I've watched your 401A, Scott. They're monsters. They've got the biggest motor out of any of the Slant-O-Matic machines that were ever made. It peaks at 1 amp. What's wrong with mine? Well, we don't know the answer to that yet, but I can show you what it's doing right now. So I've already got it plugged in. I'm going to move the foot controller right over here, kind of angle it down a little bit so you can kind of watch the needle. Yeah, you can watch the needle and the foot controller at the same time. And I'm going to push the button all the way down, pedal to the metal, and we'll see what we get. Matter of fact, I'm going to shut off my heater as well, so it's very quiet in the workshop. There we go. So I'm going to push this all the way down. Now, one of the first things that and when you have a machine that's laboring like this, I don't want to do the test too long because it's obviously putting a huge amount of strain on the motor right now. The motor is doing its best. It's trying to turn this machine over, but it's not able to do it. So what's holding it back? What do you think is holding this machine back? We can narrow it down by taking away the balance wheel factor and the fact that it's turning the main shaft right now. So somewhere between the balance wheel and the needle bar, somewhere between there, if there's something that's holding it back, if there's something that's out of alignment, if there's something that's crimped, if there's something that's super bone dry, then we can right away narrow it down to this field of the machine by taking that balance wheel factor away. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And conveniently, Sibel's machine came with no set screw in it, so I can just set the camera down and I can take this off very easily after I put some more music on. Oh, where's my music? Audio track unavailable. That's not true. Aha. Oh, I should say hi to everybody first, too. Oh, hi, Emma. Hi, Kevin and Doreen. And hi, Mary. Hi, Mary from Washington State. Good to see you guys. I just decided to do this. I didn't announce this live stream or anything like that. So I love that you guys took time out of your busy Sunday to join me. So let's just take this stop action clutch off. And what we're looking for once we do this, we're looking to see whether or not the speed of the machine all of a sudden jumps up dramatically. If it does, then we know it's most likely an issue between or beyond, I should say, beyond the balance wheel down to the needle bar. So let me kind of take this off. Kind of watch that part as you take it off. See, it kind of plops off. I can tell you one thing, the machine is filthy. I don't know if you can see that in the shot or not, but that's all buildup on that clutch release. So nasty, nasty, nasty. And then this just slides right off straight away. Oh my gosh, that is just, woo! This is going to require a lot of deep cleaning, and that may be part of our problem. You can look into here. I'll shine my light in there as well. You can see it more easily. Very, very yucky in there. But what we're looking to do now, and I'm going to pause this music, is we're waiting. Hold on a second. There we go. We're going to push on the foot controller again and listen for the speed of the motor, see if it picks up significantly. If it doesn't, then we can narrow it all the way down to the motor. Then we got a motor issue, which could be brushes. It could be something more significant than that. And I'll actually move the camera a little bit, and I'll tilt the machine a little bit so you can actually see that worm gear. And the 401s consistently had a metal worm drive gear coming off of the top of the tower motor, which, I mean, that sucker's never going to wear out. I think you can kind of see it in there. All right, so let me push on the foot controller again. Let's see if we get more gusto out of the machine now. That's still nowhere close to full power. Slide the balance wheel back on again. Okay, I'm going to pause that video right there and take us back over to the actual machine, because you can watch that video if you'd like, and just get an appreciation for where we were at. And in that video you'll see I tried hitting some key lubrication points on the machine. I also tried to use heat to see if I could loosen the machine up a little bit, and nothing I did from an intervention standpoint helped the situation. You can rewatch that video that or actually the live stream that I did on Sunday, and you can see that for yourself. Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to disengage the clutch and just fire the machine up and give you an opportunity to hear the machine power up to full speed now, and then we'll jump into some more sewing. Okay? All right, here we go. Make sure your tray tables are in the up position and that your chair, yeah, you know what I'm saying. We just took off. We literally just took off like a jet engine. So Sibel's machine has some crazy, crazy power now when it comes to being able to do any kind of sewing that she wants to do. And we've already seen this initial sew off that I did with this protected full grain leather, laying down absolutely page 34 stitching. Page 34 stitching. both the top stitch, and again, I don't know if you joined the live stream a little bit late, but the top stitching and also the lock stitching as well. So that's our straight stitching. We've accomplished that clearly with this protected full grain leather. Now let's see what this machine can do from a decorative standpoint. And everything on this 401A, I'll just kind of come out a little bit so you can see the entire machine, which is spick and span now. I love things that are clean, and it's not just a clean freak thing. It's the fact that the cleaner and the better maintained our vintage sewing machines are, the better they're going to run, the better they're going to perform. And so Sibel's 401A from 1961, it needed a major spa day and also a lot of motor work as well. And we'll look at some of those shots that I posted on Facebook after we do some additional sewing. So you can just see kind of where the machine was at, what I did to it. And that way, if you've got a 401A or if you acquire a 401A, you can see some of the problem areas that I encountered with this Brooklyn, New York machine. And then you can gain a greater appreciation for what you might be able to do from an interventive standpoint with your machine to get it back to where it needs to be. You know what? Before I jump too fast and furious, because what I'm going to do eventually is I'm going to open this little lid up here and I'm going to show you all of these stitch possibilities that are built into this 401A. Particularly the combination patterns that are on the bottom there are a lot of fun to sew. So if you take a note of those, and if you see a particular stitch that really catches your fancy, what you can do is you can write down the two letters that are associated with that particular stitch, or it could be one of the primary patterns on top here as well. And then when we jump into doing some of the decorative ornamental sewing that this 401A can do now, you can shout out through the chat the two letters that you want to see, and I'll sew that stitch for you. So I'll just hold it here for a second. We'll get this out of the way. And if you got something to write with, write down one or two of the patterns that really, really kind of catches your eye. And I'll be glad to sew those on Sibel's machine for you. I'm holding it really steady. I'm being really steady. And some of you know this. Some of you that are in my inner circle know that I've been on the road all day, and I literally had to race back to the workshop to get ready for this live stream. Plus, I had a wonderful gal from Elaine from the great state of Mississippi that I was chatting with about 201-2s and about featherweights and about featherweight convertibles. And we were just having a good old time chatting away. And then all of a sudden I looked at my clock and it was like, I got a lot of prep to do. And it's already like, I think I only had like about 45 minutes left at that point. So anyway, I've held this here for a long time. Hopefully you've written out a couple of the stitch patterns that really, really catch your fancy, whether it's a combination pattern or whether it's a primary pattern. And we'll have some fun with that. And again, if you arrived a little bit late at the live stream, we're sewing with 100% silk thread by Gutermann. Kind of see it right there on the bottom. Camera's not sure if it wants to focus. It's like, I don't know if I want to focus or not. But the thing I want to tell you real quick is that this machine has, and the title that I put on this live stream kind of teases you with that fact a little bit. It has a really interesting story behind it. So let me see if I can set the camera down, kind of give us a little angle shot like that for fun. And I'm going to read to you what Sibel told me about how she came across this machine. Oh, interesting. I just got a note from my neighbor. I seldom hear from my neighbor, and he just sent me a note. Anyway, I'll stay on task. I'll be a good boy. So I asked Sibel about, is there a backstory on this machine? And here's what she wrote. The backstory is very interesting. My mother was a professional high-end seamstress in Turkey. She had a singer, but because I had no interest, I never learned how to use her machine. We put the machine in storage, and in 2012, a hurricane flooded the storage unit, and the machine was destroyed. Mom passed away in 2016, but I felt she never left me. I wanted to get a vintage sewing machine and teach myself how to sew. I got this machine on Craigslist. When I went to pick it up, I found out that the machine was previously owned and used almost daily by this individual's mother who had passed away and who was Turkish also. She made dresses every day. Anyway, I felt that my mother helped me to get just the right machine. The deal was heaven sent. So, how cool is that? Sibel never really learns how to sew. Her mom passes away. This hurricane occurs, and any of you that live in Florida, like Emma or Maddie or Paula, you guys have that threat all the times during hurricane season. And this machine that her mom had was destroyed, was lost. So she goes to Craigslist, and what's the chance that she's going to find a seller offering a machine where the roots are very, very similar? The Turkish background, the daily sewing, the devotion to the machine, and everything else. It's just really a very unique situation, a very unique story. Now let me go to my email because then Sibel sent me a follow-up note with some additional information that she wanted me to share. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Oh, and I should share with you guys as well, if you look real quick at my inbox, you'll see that I've got, oh, let me go back. Go back. You can see I got one right here by Robert Boyd. Robert Boyd. See that right there? The inbox? Robert is in Hamburg, Germany, I should say, Hamburg, Germany. And he's planning and preparing to send to the workshop his 222K, the featherweight convertible, and he wants me to do a restorative intervention on it, and then he's wanting me to help him market it on I don't know where it's going to be marketed, maybe eBay or something like that. But at any rate, I digress. So here's what Sibel writes afterwards in an email. She says, "Good morning, Scott. I didn't tell you the whole backstory about the Singer 401A. The rest of the story is that I was the first one to respond to the Craigslist ad, and the man agreed that I could have it for free. Then I didn't hear from him in the next few days, so I texted him about it. He said he was getting a massive response from the ad. People were telling him that the machine was worth $300 to $400, which is absolutely true. That's my interjection. I'm interjecting and saying that what they were telling this gentleman that Sibel was communicating with was absolutely true. The going rate for a 401A that isn't even through the workshop with the workshop magic, it's going to be right around $300. Now that Sibel's has gone through the workshop, this is going to be about a $600 machine, maybe even more, uh, depending on how things are going in the different sales venues. Any rate, so the people were telling him that the machine was worth $300 to $400. So I asked him how much he wanted for the machine, to which he responded, $40. $40! Can you imagine? So I agreed. And when I went to pick it up and we got to talking and found out both our mothers were Turkish seamstresses, he was well pleased. He said he had 100 offers on Craigslist, which I believe. I believe that they would have jumped all over this. The 401A is a great machine. And even Elaine that I was talking to today said that she believes she has a 401 and they're just a fabulous machine. So he said he had about 100 offers on Craigslist list. And when I handed him the $40, he took $20 and gave me $20 back and said he was glad it was going to a good home. And then she writes right at the bottom, uh, sweet. Sweet. Yeah, it was sweet. That's a heck of a deal. I mean, again, a 401A that is not even running well is worth a couple $100. And this machine now, as you're going to see when we do all of the decorative ornamental type sewing, is going to be just off the hook as far as how it's going to be sewing. So have any of you, I'm looking at the chat now. We don't have a lot of chatters tonight. And I think we had about 10 people on, and then people kind of jumped off. So we're down to about 5 or 6 people now that are on this live stream, which is fine because we have a lot of folks that will watch it afterwards. And some of them are fast forward people. They'll kind of fast forward the parts that they don't want to see and they'll jump back into it. But yeah, and Emma writes, it's a happy machine. It absolutely is. This machine is ready to get the job done now and is really excited, I think, to kind of strut its stuff. You know, that New York strut. I can only imagine that New Yorkers have a strut. So we're going to have a chance to see that now. And I was planning on sewing these other sew offs on this saddle grade leather, which we could certainly do, but I'm almost tempted now because on the saddle grade leather, it's going to be really hard to see the lock stitch on the back. I'm almost tempted to grab a large chunk of the protected full grain leather and have us do the decorative sew offs on the protected full grain leather. What do you guys think? And oh, hey, Sibel, welcome. Sibel is our owner, and she just kind of popped on, and she has two stitches as well that she'd like to see. And I'm going to write these down in case we get more chatty and they start to scroll up, and then I'll have to kind of search for them. So let me grab something to write with real quick, and I'll put on some more music as well. Oh, we've already heard that one. Let's go to Sailor Song. Okay, so we've got what Emma has. Emma has GR, so let me put in Emma's GR. And we have Sibel has IP and JP. Sibel has IP and JP. Hey, Paula. Yeah, you are getting a preview, Paula. Paula, and this is going back, and it's interesting. I was chatting with Emma today a little bit off, as I was traveling between the paint shop, working on this featherweight for this couple out of California. And I asked her when I got back to Oconto, I checked my mail and I had a mailing from the History Museum where they're trying to encourage folks that have donated in the past to donate again. And I just asked her, I said, did you get one of those in the mail as well? So she was going to check for me. But going back to that History Museum fundraiser we did, Paula had bid, or not bid, she had made a donation to get a 401A that I donated. And I still have to get that done for her. So this is not only a great chance for her to get a preview of the machine, but it's also a good reminder of me needing to get that machine done for her. Yeah, I got to get it done. So, Sibel, do you have a preference? I'd like to do the sew offs because I'm using the silk thread. I'd like to do it on leather. I'm thinking the protected full grain leather, it'll be easier for us to see the lock stitch with the nap of this compared to this protected full or compared to this saddle grade leather. Saddle grade leather has a lot more pronounced nap on it. It's got a beautiful front, but the nap on the protected full grain leather will be a lot easier for us to see. Is it okay if we use this for the stitches that folks want to see? I'll let you make that decision since you're the owner of the machine. So it's either using this, which I think the stitches will present beautifully on the saddle grade leather, but it'll be harder for us to see the lock stitch, or we can use the protected full grain leather and it'll be a lot easier for us to see that the lock stitch on the back. So I'll wait for Sibel to respond and then okay, Sibel's cool with the protected full grain leather. So let me race over and cut a chunk of that so we can do these stitches that folks want to see on the protected full grain leather. So just bear with me for a sec. And this is kind of what I'm working with right here. This is all of my protected full grain leather right here. I've got like a little bolt of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a chunk of this off and give us hopefully enough room to sew quite a few of the stitches that folks want to see. Matter of fact, if I do shorter rows, kind of like this, we'll be able to have even more stitches until I run out of bobbin thread, that is. And we'll set it up kind of like this. Okay, so the first stitch that I'm going to sew is going to be the one that Emma wanted to see, and I should look at the chat again to see. Yep, good things do come to those that wait, Paula. I couldn't agree with you more. So Emma wanted to see GR, and it's really easy to select stitches on this machine. Initially, when you look at this, it's almost like you're in the cockpit of a 747. And it's a little bit intimidating. You're looking at all this and you're going, holy cow! But it's really quite easy. You've got two different knobs here. You've got the outside knob, you've got the inside knob. The inside knob is going to control this side. The outside knob is going to control this side. So if we want GR, then we just push this in and we rotate it down to G, like so. And then we grab the other knob and we pull it out. This one you push in, this one you pull out. And then we'll rotate it to R. Just like that. That's it. Other than deciding what we want our stitch length to be at. And usually when I'm sewing decorative stitches, I'll move this down into the lower range, maybe not into the fine range, but right around a 15-ish. We could go all the way into the fine range, and then we would really be right around the 25 to 30 stitches per inch. I don't think we need to go quite that small. So let's try out Emma's stitch, and I don't even know what it looks like, so this will be kind of fun to see what this is going to look like, right? Okay. I better lock my clutch back in. We did that power test, and also I'll turn our music down. All right. So yeah, Emma's got me curious now because I have no idea what this stitch looks like. I didn't memorize them. I'm sorry, I didn't. All right, here we go. This is for Emma. GR. All right, here we go. Oh, and I didn't look. Let me peek just to make sure that I don't have to change the red lever. Red lever control widths. 3, 2 needle primary, 3 or 2. GR, 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 GR. So that's going to be a combination pattern. And it's recommending a setting on the red lever at 3. So we're good. And the red lever I'm referring to, I should show you real quick. The red lever right here is going to control our stitch width in general. And for the patterns, depending on whether you're doing primary or whether you're doing the combination patterns that are on the bottom there, you might have some discretion in where you set that red lever. Most of the time, you're going to be on 3. In some cases, you can go to 2. So I just wanted to double check so I didn't set us up with the wrong red lever setting thingy. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. There we go. Oh, that's cool. Emma, that's a classy stitch. I like it. Isn't that pretty? Oh my goodness. And again, if we have some discretion with the red lever, hi Eddie, we could move it down to 2 with this particular pattern because it's one of the combination patterns. Combination patterns, we can go 2 or 3. But I think we'll just stay on 3 just to make it more simple. But that's a gorgeous stitch. Isn't that pretty? Let me rotate that needle up and we'll take a look at this a little bit closer. And again, if you're joining the live stream a little bit late, we've got 100% silk Gutermann thread that we're sewing with. And we've got a size 9014 Schmetz universal needle that I'm using. That is a pretty pattern. Let me show that to you kind of over here. That's the one that Emma just picked. And again, if we were to go with, we could use a leather needle on this machine as well. The Slantomatics, even though they have a slanted needle bar, you can use a standard Schmetz needle on them. You don't need to have any kind of a specialty needle. So let's do the next one. That's just a gorgeous stitch, isn't it? I love it. Oh, I got to clip that other thread on the back. Oh, I'll show you the lock stitch as well. And that's the beauty of Sibel saying that we could use this protected full grain leather because you can see that lock stitch so much easier. There's our lock stitch on the pattern that Emma picked. That really is a gorgeous pattern, isn't it? And again, this is not a cam, this is not a plastic cam generated stitch. All of the stitching that we're going to be doing on this live stream is built into this 401A already. It's part of the cam stack. And we'll look at the cam stack when we look at some of the progress photos. But let's do the 2 stitches that Sibel wanted to see, and maybe some other folks will jump in and give us some other stitch options as well. There we go. I wanted to try to get that as straight as I could. You guys know I don't usually sew real straight, so I'm trying to impress you by sewing straight right now. So Sibel wanted to see IP and JP. So let me just see if those are, I think those are combination as well. IP, yep. JP, yep. Those are combination as well. So we're good to go on the red lever. So I'm going to set those as well. Right now, this is our control area. We're going to leave this static on 3 right now for the stitch width. Now we have to move this one over to I and this one over to P. So let's move this to I first. So this is on I now. And now we're going to move this one to P. That's it. Isn't that easy? Again, initially, when you look at the 401A, you feel like you're being asked to launch the space shuttle, but it really is. Once you get into the machine, it really is a simple machine to operate. Okay, let's do this next stitch for the owner of this beautiful 401A. That really was an inspired machine in many respects because of the story that I shared with you about her mom. So here we go. This is going to be IP for Sibel. Here we go. Oh, isn't that an interesting one? It almost looks like a mountain range or something. Let me show this one to you. And I probably, again, depending on the settings that you have the discretion to change, the look of that stitch is going to be very different. Also, if we were using polyester thread as opposed to silk thread. So this is the IP stitch right here. And I'm almost, it says that we can be on the red lever 3, but I'm almost thinking that if we changed the stitch length on it a little bit, we would get a very different look to that stitch. But it's a lovely stitch nonetheless. It just kind of, it has such an interesting movement to it, doesn't it? Yeah, it does kind of look like a mountain range MI. I agree. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Let's look at the lock stitch on that so we can check that as well. Yeah. Yeah, I like that stitch. It's cool. It's very cool. Let's sew the next one that Sibel picked out. And everyone's going to have favorite stitches when you have a 401. Once Paula gets her 401, I'm sure that she will have favorite stitches as well. And we're not going to even have a chance to test all of the stitches that this 401 can do. So once Sibel gets it out in Brooklyn, New York, she's going to find probably some of the select stitches that really, really make her foot tap. So now we're going to do JP is the other stitch that Sibel picked. JP down to J. And now we're going to set this one on. Oh, actually, we already are on P. Yeah, so we don't have to do a thing with that. That's beautiful. There we go. Let's try this next one. And I didn't mention it, but most of you folks know from watching a lot of the premieres and live streams, always make sure your take-up arm when you launch on any machine is at the highest position so that it's just getting ready to go on that downstroke. And that way you don't get any hesitation, you don't get any bird nesting, which can sometimes happen with machines when they're not launching straight away. And they've got a little bit of a delay. Okay, here we go. The next stitch that Sibel picked. Here we go. Oh, that's a nice one. Great choice, Sibel. I like that one a lot. Let's take a closer look at that. I'll go ahead and clip these threads and put it over by the camera so you guys can take a look at it. And again, I'm not a big needle choice person, but depending on the needle that you use with stitches like these and the type of thread that you use will also change the look or the presentation of those stitches as well. So I chose to use a 9014 Schmetz universal needle. If I had used an embroidery needle, the stitches would look a little bit different than they do. But they are lovely, lovely stitches. So again, the ones we've done so far is GR, IP, and JP. And again, I could also change the look of these dramatically depending on how I set the stitch length. Some of these, the primary ones will give us a little bit more discretion on setting stitch width, but otherwise the output is impacted also by needle selection and thread selection too. Let's take a look at the lock stitch on this. So it's even with this flatter nap on the protected full grain leather, it's a little bit harder to see some of these stitches, partly because I've got the stitch length set way down. But the balance of the stitching between our lock stitch and our top stitch, and again, we're not using a leather needle, we're using a universal needle by Schmetz, a size 9014. The balance that this machine is executing is just absolutely spot on, especially with as much needle movement and swing as we have with these decorative ornamental type patterns. We get this back into position, and I think I saw some other stitch preferences, and I'll show for folks that join the live stream a little bit late. Let me show the patterns that we can pick from again. So if anybody else wants to chime in and pick a pattern, you can do that. You can pick a combination pattern on the bottom there, You can pick a primary pattern. It's totally up to you. And all I need to know is the two letters that are associated with the pattern. And we've already sewn GRIP and JP. GRIP and JP. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to write down or at least kind of look at them and say, yeah, I'd like to see that one. That'd be cool. Let me see what other ones we've gotten that are. Oh, let's see. Hello, all, Eddie. Emma, is that H? That's HO and FQ, right? HO and FQ. Yep. HO. HO and FQ. Okay, so let's do these next two. And again, anyone else that wants to chime in, I just showed you the patterns that we can set again on the machine. Anyone that wants to chime in and give me the pattern that you want to see sewn on Sibel's 1961 401A, I'm glad to do it for you. Glad to do it for you. All right, so now we're going to set HO. Again, very, very simple. We're going to set the left side first. So I'll push this in and go to H. And then the white one you pull to set this side. So we're going to be moving that to O. Just one down, really. So now we're all set to do this next pattern that Emma wants to see. Let's see what this one looks like. And also, I've got the music turned way down. Listen to this machine run, how silky smooth it's running now. Nothing holding it back. It's able to just let loose and have fun. All right, here we go. Oh, that's a fun one, isn't it? Look at that one. I like them all, but this one really is. You can just see the overlay of this silk thread as it's executing this very complicated pattern. And again, this is all being done by a built-in cam stack into this 401A. All right, let's bring this over so you guys can see this one too. And yeah, I've got them upside down, so just imagine that they're not upside down. Let me do it like this. Maybe it's better. So this one on the right, whoops, there we go. This one on the right is the one that we just did, which I think is way cool. Very, very cool. They're all cool, but I like that one in particular. So that one again that Emma gave us is HO. And then before we did IP, we did JP and we did GR as well. Kind of flip it over. We'll look at the lock stitch also. Kind of pause there for a second so you can see the 4 rows that we've done so far. Now the lock stitch for that pattern that Emma just picked. It's going to be this one on the far left side because I just flipped it over. Again, silk thread is surprisingly strong, but it's not recommended generally for sewing leather, and that's what we're doing. And this machine is so well tuned now that it's doing what a lot of people would consider to be impossible. We're laying down silk thread on protected full grain leather. Protected full grain leather, again, has a special coating on it to make it resistant to stains. And this machine is just, it's executing this just, I think, beautifully. A very, very difficult task. Let's check out this next stitch that Emma picked, and hopefully some other folks will chime in and we can get some other stitch options again. And I'll show you those patterns again in case you join the live stream a little bit late, so you can get involved with this and pick your own pattern for us to sew on Sibel's 1961 401A. Okay, so let's set this next one. The next one that Emma picked is FQ. FQ. So we're going to change this side first. We'll move that to F. We'll move this to Q. That's on F. Just making sure I have it on Q and not R. Yeah, that should be Q there. That's it. We'll leave the stitch width, the red lever, on 3. So let's do this next stitch now. Take up arm at the highest position. Again, we're using a size 90-14 universal needle by Schmetz if you want to try this on your 401A. And we're using 100% Gutermann silk thread. Let's see what this one looks like. And again, listen to this machine run. 401s have a lot of needs when it comes to servicing. And let's just say that a lot of them sound real clanky, not Sibel's. Listen to this. Oh, that's a real complicated one. That one is really cool. And if you're curious about the genre that I picked classical. I wanted to bring a certain dignity to these sew-offs, because when I think of New York, and I lived in New York State around the Hudson Valley for 3 years when I was at West Point Military Academy, and I went into the city a couple of times. And with the Broadway and just all of the culture in that city, I don't know, it's a classy city, isn't it? Classy, and classy people too. So that's the last one we sewed. I almost made that. Off camera, I kind of bumped us a little bit more into the fine range. You see, we're right here right now. I think I'm going to bring that back down a little bit because we're almost getting a little bit too fine on the stitching now. There we go. Right around there, right around on 15, I think is where I'll leave it set. So this last row over here is the last one we just did that Emma picked out. Beautiful stitching, beautiful stitching. So far we've sewn, let me see if I can get them right here. We've done GR, IP, JP, HO, and FQ. Yeah, that's what we've done so far. Let me flip it over and we'll look at that lock stitch for the last stitch that we just did. Again, notice the balance. Notice the balance is perfect from top to the lock stitch. The machine is running at such a high level of precision right now and sewing with a difficult setup. Difficult setup because we're using a larger needle than you typically would use with silk thread. They usually recommend a size 70 or an 80, but because we're sewing leather, I bumped this up to a size 90/14. And they usually would recommend, there's nothing wrong with a universal needle, but you could go with an embroidery needle. You could go with a microtex type needle as well, which would be a real nice needle to use with this type of thread. But again, because we're working with leather, I wanted to go with a universal needle that would have a point and a scarf that would be able to manage the leather much better than some of the specialty needles. But again, the result is we're getting a perfect balance with a very difficult setup. Yeah. Well, I'm curious if we have any other pattern selections that the owner would like to see, or any of the other folks that are part of the live stream. Just going to look here, see if we have any other ones. Yeah, it is effortless, isn't it? Um, and again, if you saw that little clip of how the motor was performing under a load, before I took the balance wheel off in that other live stream that we did on Sunday, even with no actual sewing, just trying to turn that main shaft, this machine was struggling so much. And now it's just boom, done. I think I called it in my title, I called it the New York strut. It's just strutting itself. It's stuff now. It's just strutting its stuff with no effort whatsoever. Yeah, magical. Let me show you guys the patterns again. And again, the patterns that we've already sewn are these right here. So far, Emma and Sibel are the only ones that have chimed in. I'd love to get Paula's input or Ed's input or anyone else in the live stream, anyone else that wants to chime in. We've done these 5 stitches so far: GR, IP, JP, HO, FQ. Yeah. So let me show you again what we have as far as choices. And we could always resew them, and you could say, hey, make the stitch length long or something like that. Because if we goof around with the stitch length, we can change the total look of that pattern. But you can see on the bottom there, we've got the combination patterns. On the top, we've got the primary patterns. And these are all patterns that are built into the machine through that single cam stack. I'm just going to patiently hold it there for a bit so you can grab a piece of paper and a pen and jot down some of the other patterns that you'd like to see. Anyone can jump in and just say, "Hey, I'd like to see FL, or I'd like to see EQ, or I'd like to see BN, or BL, or any of the other ones we haven't done yet." Otherwise, I'll start picking them, but I really would love for you guys to be in the I'd like for you to be in the commander's seat and you pick them for us. That would be cool. Okay, so Eddie, oh, hi. Hi, Aaron. So Aaron is saying FR, and we didn't do FR yet. Let me write that down before we scroll up too far. So Aaron would like to see FR, and Eddie would like to see EQ, I think, right? EQ. Did I miss any? Seeing if anyone else put one in there that they'd like to see. Paula, did I miss one of yours? If I did, I apologize. I see that you have HL and JL. HL and JL. Let me add those in real quick. Paula wants to see HL and JL. HL and JL. Let's do errands first, you guys. Let's do errands, and then if anyone else wants to chime in, you do have your invisibility cloak on. It's part of one of your superpowers as a moderator. Emma's got a cloak of invisibility too, but she usually doesn't use it because she's a former New Yorker, and New Yorkers, they want to be seen. They just do. Okay, so let's set up errands now. FR. FR. Well, this is really easy because we're already on F over here, and we're on Q, so we just have to go one up on this to do errand stitch. There we go. I'm trying to do this left-handed, and I'm right-handed, so it's a little bit more challenging. So this is going to be errand stitch now. FR. We're going to leave this static as far as the stitch width. This is called the red lever when you look at the settings up here. So we're going to leave our red lever on 3. I'll leave our stitch length right around 15-ish is kind of where we're at right now. So let's do errand stitch next. FR. I think that's a pretty good camera angle. I hope it is. Get my take-up arm all the way up. Okay, this is a stitch for errand on Sibel's 1961 401A. And we'll see what this looks like. I have no idea. Here we go. Oh, that's a pretty one, isn't it? This again is FR if you've got a 401A. You can kind of see it from the edge over here. That's one that we just did, that Aaron picked. Isn't that a beautiful stitch? Just amazing that this engineering was at this level back in the 1960s. Well, obviously earlier than that, but oftentimes you had to have the cam to insert, like on the Swedish Beauties, unless it's a 19E special. So this is Aaron's stitch right here. I'll kind of line it up. I like this one. It almost looks like a heart monitor, doesn't it? I don't know. We've got a number of healthcare people that usually are in these live streams and premieres, and I don't know what you would think that looks like, but it kind of looks a little bit like a heart, like a EKG. Is that what they call them? EKG, I think. So how many stitches have we done so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our 7th stitch is going to be EQ, and that's going to be for Ed. My friend Ed that picked that one. So let's line this up. Oh, well, let me show you the lock stitch. I apologize. There's our lock stitch. No difference. You know, I always say it. If a machine can execute a solid page 34 lock stitch like we're doing through all of these ornamental stitches, again with a less than ideal setup. We're using silk thread, we're using a bigger needle than they would recommend, and we're sewing on a material that they say we should never be sewing on with silk thread. But we are because we're rebels, right? And it's just every single one of these patterns that we've done so far has just done a perfect job in executing that lock stitch as well, which is really the big determiner as to how a machine is doing. Okay, so let's do Ed's now, which is EQ. Oh yeah, Eddie said EKG. Yep. Wonder what it looks like with closer spacing. In other words, making it more narrow. Aaron, is that what you're saying? Primary red lever 3 or 2. If we get any primaries, I'll just show you real quick. If we get any primaries, we can go all the way down to 2 on stitch width. I'll show you guys again. So you can see here where my thumb is, it says primary. We can set the red lever at 3 or 2. But for the combination patterns, it's recommending that we stay with a red lever setting of 3. And the red lever, again, is going to control our stitch width. So if any of you pick the primary patterns up here, we can try sewing them on 2 or sewing them on 3. 2 or 3 on the red lever for the primary patterns. But these combination patterns that tend to be a little bit more ornamental, it's recommending we stick with a red lever setting of 3 for combination patterns. I almost slipped there. Yuck, that would have been bad. He's chasing the thread across the floor. So, all right, let's do Ed's now. EQ. Hold on a second. So we're going to set this on E. That was easy. I should actually do that.
That was easy. That was easy.
Yeah, that was easy. And then we're going to set the other one on Q. And again, to set the one on the right, we're going to be pulling the white knob out. I wish I didn't have to do this left-handed. Okay, that should be Q. So EQ is the one that Eddie wants to see. Well, let's do that one next. Let's do that one next. And that's a combination pattern, so we're going to leave the stitch width where it's at. Okay, take up arm all the way up. All right, let's do this next one for Eddie. Here we go. Ooh, I like that one. That's fun. This is the one that Eddie picked right there, the one we just sewed. Very cool. Very cool. And I'm not looking at the chat continuously, so if I missed anyone as far as them wanting to see a stitch pattern, please highlight that for me. So these again are the stitches we've done so far. Just kind of show them to you in totality. There we go. So we started with the one way over here. That was Emma's GR. Then we did Sibel's IP, JP. Emma gave us HOFQ. And then Aaron gave us FR. And then Eddie just gave us this one on the end, EQ. So we still have a lot more that we could sew. I mean, we've got plenty of protected full grain leather to sew on, but I don't know if we have any other. Wait, Paula's given us one now. Did we already do Paula? We didn't do Paula's yet, did we? Oh, we still have to do Paula's. Paula gave us HLJL, and now she's also given us BMBR. BMBR. Hold on a second. Let me write these down. BMBR. Okay. Let's get Paula's sewn next. Oh, I got to show you the lock stitch too. Although you guys already know, it's going to be perfect. Page 34 lock stitching, page 34 top stitching on all of these patterns that we've done. Absolutely spot on. All right, let's catch up on Paula's now. I almost forgot we had page 2 and I forgot to do Paula's. Paula's going to be mad at me. She'll send me a nasty text with a frowny face or something like that. Ooh, this is the news song. I like this one. All right, so let's do Paula's first one, HL. HL. So we're going to set this on H. And we're going to set this on L. There we go. So HL is Paula's first one that we're going to do for her. And I don't know if that's a primary or if that is a combination. Let's see. HL is going to be a combination. So we'll leave the red lever where it is. And let me just see if any of these others, JL is also a combination. BM. Okay, so when we get to BM, Paula, when we get to the BM and the BM and BR, you can tell me whether you want me to sew it with the red lever on 3, where I've got it right now, or we can move it to 2, which is going to make it a little bit more narrow. So when we get to those patterns, you chime in and let me know, because the primary patterns we can sew with the red lever on 3 or 2. Combination ones, they recommend that we stick with 3. So, all right, there we go. All right, let me get my spool of thread lined back up again. There we go. Okay, so let's do this first one for Paula. This is going to be HL. And again, listen to Sibel's machine run. That's the big deal to me, that it runs just beautifully. All right, here we go. Oh, that's my building block one that she picked. Isn't that cool? Can you see that one that we just did? Very nice. I kind of wish Aaron had suggested, I kind of wish we could set it on a more narrow setting. We probably could be rebels and just say, we're going to set it on 2 anyway, or we're going to set it at a more narrow, but I'll leave that up to Sibel. Right now, we'll follow the rules. I'll be good. This is her machine. When she gets it out in Brooklyn, New York, if she wants to try the same pattern that Paula just gave us, HL, with other than a 3 setting for the red lever, if she wants to try 2, that's going to be up to her. Yeah. So again, if you're joining the live stream a little bit late, this is a 1961. Oh, here's our lock stitch. You guys already know. This is one that we just did for Paula. If you're joining a little bit late, this is a 1961 Singer 401A. It's a last edition 401 that came out of Anderson, South Carolina. And I say last edition because they made the Singer 401A from 1956 until 1961. This is a 1961. So before they ended this series of this 401A, that I think is one of the greatest machines ever made, quite honestly, they made Sibel's machine that she got from Craigslist from this gentleman. You already heard the story. If you didn't, you can rewind and listen to it. It's a beautiful story about her mother being from Turkish roots. Also, the gentleman that was selling this from Craigslist, his mom was also from Turkish roots, seamstresses, daily sewers, blah, blah, blah. It's a beautiful story. So, the cool thing about Sibel's machine, we've seen first editions before. The one that I sent out to Sunny, which was a 404, a straight stitch only slat-o-matic machine, was a first edition machine, but you don't always see these last edition machines with it, which I think is really cool. So 1961, what a great year. I wasn't born yet, but I'm sure it was a great year. I'm sure it was a great year. Okay, so let's do Paula's next one. We did HL. Now we're going to do JL, JL, JL. So we're going to change this one first, move it down to J, and then we're already on L over here, so we're good. We don't have to change the one on the right at all. And we're going to leave this lever alone. Like I said, when we get to the last two stitches that Paula picked out, which are primary stitches, not combination stitches, Paula can let me know at that time if she wants me to goof around with this red lever. We can either, on those last two stitches we're going to do for Paula, we can either leave it here or we can move it to 2. That's going to be her call. Okay? So we've got JL now. Let's check this one out. JL. Move our take-up arm all the way up. Okay. Let me adjust that a little bit. I've got my cheat sheet here with the stitches that you guys have picked out. So, all right, here we go. This is the second stitch that Paula Noel picked out. Ooh, wow. That's a real cool looking stitch too, isn't it? It's similar to the one that Eddie picked out, but it's got a little bit more overlay, doesn't it? It's got a little bit more overlay on it as you're looking at it. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a really cool one. And again, if we goof around with the stitch length on these combination patterns, we could change the look of any of these stitches quite a bit that are combination stitches. Yeah, really pretty. We'll pull it out and look at I'll just turn it real quick like that. You can see the lock stitch over here, which is absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Let me clip these threads and we'll jump onto these next two stitches. And I've got to look at the chat and see if Paula wants me to leave it on 3 or move it to 2. Can you make it wider or closer together? That would be a factor of the red lever. And again, it gives recommendations. Sometimes we follow those, sometimes we don't. But with the combination patterns, it's recommending that we stay with a 3 setting on the red lever, which is going to control the stitch width or the width of the pattern. When it comes to the primary stitches, which we're going to be sewing 2 of those right now, we've got discretion in making it more narrow, moving that red lever from 3 over to 2. So I'm guessing Paula's going to want to do it on the 2 setting. I'm guessing. Well, let me look at the chat and see what she says. Love the scallop. Great for top stitching edges. Yeah, for sure. Well, Paula, what do you want to see on these next 2 primary patterns that we're going to sew? And if you guys haven't been counting, we've already done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches. By the time we get done with the stitches that we have right now, we will have done 11, right? Yeah, we will have done 11 of them because we just did JL. Now we're going to do BM and BR, which are primary stitches. Well, when you say go rogue, are you wanting me to, because I can leave the red lever on 3 like we have it right now, or I can move it to 2, which is going to make the stitch pattern more narrow. So like here, if this had been this one right here, the block one, which is really cool, if the block one had been a primary stitch pattern instead of a combination, we could have moved it from 3 to 2 on the red lever, which would have made this a little bit more narrow, a little tighter together. But it's up to you. I mean, these are your choices, Paula. Oh, hey, Stephen, how are you? The arrowhead. Yeah, what I'll do is after we sew Paula's two primary patterns, BMBR. I'll show you guys the stitches again, combination stitches, primary patterns. And if there's an arrowhead, Stephen, just post what the two letters are, and I'll be happy to sew that for you. So go wider. So I'll leave it on 3 then. I'll leave it on 3, Paula. So let's do your next ones. So BM next. And again, these are ones that Paula just picked out. These are not combination patterns that we're about to do. These are primary patterns. Primary patterns. So with primary, we've got the discretion where if we wanted to, we can move the red lever from 3 down to 2, but we're not going to do that because Paula wants it wider. So we're going to leave it right there. So we're going to move this to B. And the next one is M. So we're going to move this one over to M now, which is really only 1 notch up. That's it. And we'll leave our stitch length. Right now we've got it right around on 15-ish. We could go all the way into the fine area, but I don't know if we want to do that. We could. I mean, it's up to you guys, but we'll leave it there for right now because we're getting some pretty good, I think we're getting some good representations of the stitches. See those? And again, look at the edge of this protected full grain leather. It's about between 3 to 4 ounces of leather, about 2.5 to 3 millimeters, probably about 2 to 3 millimeters thick. And this 401A is just buzzing through it like it's cotton. What's the big deal? No big deal here. All right, let's do this next primary. Let's do this. I shouldn't say next. Let's do this first primary pattern that Paula picked out. Look at that field of stitching we've already done. Isn't this fun? Sibel's got such a cool machine. And Paula, yours is going to do the same thing when I'm done with it, whenever that is. God bless you for your patience. And I should tell you guys real quick, I'm gonna announce in the future, because Sibel told me that she does. I don't want to let her type in the chat what she does. It's healing using different scents, and you guys probably don't remember, but when I did her unboxing of this 401A, I made the remark that it was the best smelling box ever. Oh my gosh, it smelled so good. I just wanted to climb inside of the box with a machine and just breathe it in. And Sibel does all kinds of cool things with scents, like scent therapy and stuff like that. But I'll let her type in the chat what she does if she wants to share it now. Otherwise, she's going to send me some samples of stuff and then I'll show it to you guys. So, all right, blah, 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 blah. Let's do this next one, which is BM. It's a primary stitch. All right. Here we go. Gosh, I'm not sure what that is. Maybe we should have gone with a more narrow setting on it, because we had it with a primary. We can do either 3 or 2 on the red lever. This one is just, I don't know, this one's kind of hard for me to figure out. That one's a little bit hard for me to figure out. It's kind of cool. It's got these little doodads in the middle here, but there's not a lot of movement to it, is there? Huh. And maybe it's my stitch length is too short. I could try sewing that again with a longer stitch length and see what we get. But that's part of the art of working with a 401A is as you become more, and there's our lock stitch, which is spot on. But as you become more familiar with your 401A, you start to get kind of a sweet spot for the different stitch outputs that you like using, whether it's a primary like this or a combination like that. So this one is, I don't know, it's just, I'm sure if I made some setting changes on it, it would be even more spectacular. Oh, hi, Christina. Oops, I'm dropping stuff. Doggone it. If one of the moderators could interact with Christina, and you probably already have, I didn't look at the chat, but Christina is typing something in Temple Q. Is that Italian? Maybe she's from Italy. Or maybe Christina could tell us where she's from, or tell her. I'll let Paula and Emma handle it. I'm going to focus on doing these next stitches. I'm just curious to sew Paula's primary again and make the stitch length longer and see what, if anything, I don't think that's going to change it. Maybe it could even go shorter. I'm going to try sewing it again on 2 and be a rebel. So this is what we got on 3. Let's try changing the red lever to 2 and see if it impacts the look of it dramatically. I don't know if it will or not. It might. Okay, let's sew this primary one more time. That's what we got the first time. It's got the inkling of greatness. Oops. It's got the inkling of greatness, but I'm just not sure. Let's try it. Let's try it. Let's move this to 2 and sew it again and see what we get. And again, whenever you're making changes on a machine, always make sure your needle is clear of the material. So I've got that set on 2 now instead of 3. Let's see what we get. I'm just curious. Just curious. Wow, what a field of stitches. Like a field of dreams. That's fun. And I've got to watch our time too. We've been running about an hour and 27 minutes. I'm not in a rush. I'll spend as much time with Sibel's machine as she would like me to spend. But I also want to be sensitive to our friends on the East Coast, because right now it's going on. What is it going on? 8:30? It's going at 8:30 your time. So, all right. All right, let's do this. Let's do the same pattern that Paula picked, which is BM, but we're going to sew it with a more narrow setting with the red lever and see what we get. See what we get. This will be kind of fun. All right, here we go. that was not the right choice. That actually made it even less defined. That was the wrong choice. Paula was right in saying let's stay wide, but you know what? It's kind of cool looking, and I get all kind of I get kind of goofy with this, in saying we could make it longer and do the same thing too. But that was yeah. We'll switch it back. We'll leave it on 3 for now. But that's BM right there. Sibel, when she gets this machine out in New York, she can try manipulating the primary stitch of BM and see what she gets. Yeah, see what she gets. Let's move on to Paula's next primary stitch. Let's move on to Paula's next primary stitch. And I should probably take a peek at our bobbin thread too. Probably should take a look at our bobbin thread, which on this machine is really easy to do. Just have to slide open that door. Oh, once you know, it's playing the Sleepy Time song. Can you hear that in the background? You guys are going to start falling asleep any second now. And you know what? If one of the moderators want to try doing it, just open another window on your device. Use your left mouse to copy what Christina wrote, and then just punch it into a Google search. It'll tell you what language it is. And then you can always go to Google Translate and try to communicate with Christina that way, because I don't want her to feel like she's not part of what we're doing. And I know you guys are working diligently to make sure that that doesn't happen. But that's usually what I do, is if we have somebody from somewhere else in the world that writes in their language, I just copy and paste it into a Google search. It'll tell you what language it is. And then you can jump into a Google Translate and communicate with Christina that way potentially. So, but isn't it wonderful? Isn't it a blessing that we have folks from around the world join us for something like this? And who knows? Maybe it's 2 o'clock in the morning where they're at, but they're so intrigued to see Sibel's machine do its magic that they're like, I'm gonna be sleep deprived. It's cool because I want to see this 401A do its thing after Scott got done with it. So that's kind of, yeah, that's cool. All right, let's go to BR now. BR, another primary stitch. We're already set on B here, and now we're going to move this one over to R. And if you're seeing this special up here and you're saying, what's with the special up here? That's if we're going to actually be using cams that we put into the machine. So if we wanted to use the cam instead of the built-in cams, we would move this selector up to special. And then there's other choices over there as well. So, all right, I digress. All right, let's go over to here now. So now we're doing BR, which again is another primary pattern. It's not a combination pattern. Then I'll show you guys those patterns again so you can potentially choose one for me to sew. Here we go. Yeah, that almost has a similar, I think Paula has a, oh wow, I wasn't even near the material. Oops, sorry guys. I think Paula has a thing for scallops because that's also a scallop type pattern that we just sewed, which on Sibel's machine is BR if you want to try it on your 401A. It's a beautiful, beautiful pattern, isn't it? Maybe you can see it from another angle there. So this is the last one we just sewed right here. That's BR. So these, all three of these last ones here are primary patterns. All of the rest of these that we've sewn are combination patterns. So on these combination patterns, we have to stay on the 3 according to what the manufacturers recommend. Doesn't mean we have to. They recommend that we do. On these, we can go 3 or 2. And this was kind of my failed attempt to sew the BM. This is BM, BM, and then BR. So, but again, I work on so many different machines. I don't have the level of intimacy with a 401A that Sibel will have when she gets it out in Brooklyn, New York. She will become a master of all of these stitch patterns and more. So, yeah, and the lock stitch on the back, you can see here. Let me pull it out a little bit. Lock stitches on the back are all also spot on. And again, we're sewing, if you're kind of joining us late, we're sewing with 100% Gutermann silk thread, 100% Gutermann silk thread. They recommend using a microtex needle or possibly an embroidery needle, a size 70 or an 80, because I like to really make it even more difficult on the machines to demonstrate how perfectly that machine is operating. We're using a Schmetz universal size 9014. It's a bigger needle than they recommend for using silk thread. And then on top of that, we're being defiant and we're using silk thread on protected full grain leather. So really, I mean, this is a New York machine, for goodness sakes. It's from Brooklyn, New York. New Yorkers are tough. This machine is tough. So we're making it tougher on the machine than we have to, which is okay. That's okay. All right. Oh, I was going to look at the bobbin thread. Yeah, we're okay. We're probably about halfway through it. Beauty again of the drop-in bobbin is you can just look in straight away and see where your bobbin thread is at. So we're about 50% of the way through. And the bobbins that are used in these Slant-O-Matics is going to be the same that you use in a lot of the Singer machines. This is a class 66 bobbin, just like you would use in a 201-2 or in a lot of the other Singer machines. Class 66 machines use the same bobbin. So they're very easy. I prefer the metal ones. They do make plastic ones as well, but I'm not a fan of the plastic class 66 bobbins because they sometimes get warped. So, anyway, we're good on bobbin thread for right now. So that's a good thing for you, Paula, is your 201-2 that I'm still working on, still finishing, is going to take the same bobbins as your Slantomatic 401A. They're going to use exactly the same bobbin, and they could use exactly the same needles too, and the same thread. So, but you can see what we've done so far. I mean, we've got a field of dreams here, don't we? Look at it's almost too wide to capture it. I'll go like this. I believe she sews vintage clothing. Okay. Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much to Emma and Paula for engaging Christina. I don't want anyone to feel left out. You know what I mean? You guys are like-minded like I am. We want everyone to feel welcome. And I'm so grateful for folks like Emma, Paula, Sunny, Bill that can jump in and kind of bridge that gap as I'm trying to do other things over here. So thank you so much. Look at all the sewing we've done already, you guys, on Sibel's machine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've done a dozen. We've done a dozen stitches already, not including the stitching that I've already done off camera on this needle. So we're working it pretty hard. Let me show you the stitches again, and let's see if we can get some more, because we've done all of Paula's stitches at this point. And I'll be glad to do more. I'm just watching our time. I'd like to keep us under 2 hours if we can, and you know what? Here's what I'm probably going to end up doing, you guys. I'm probably going to end up posting the links for the photos, the progress photos, because I know the owner's already seen them. The owner, Sibel, has already seen the Facebook progress photos of me working on the motor and doing all the other things I did to this 1961 401A that arrived very troubled. But we can, I'd love to be able to show them to you, but I don't want to run you guys through that. And I'll just post the links in the description. So I'm going to open this up again, show you the patterns that we have, and the ones that we've already sewn, we could always resew them again if you guys want to do that. The ones on the bottom where I'm touching with my thumb are the combination patterns, and I'll be leaving the red lever on 3 for those. And then we've got the primary ones up here, which we can move the red lever either to 3 or 2, but we'll probably leave it on 3 because it gives a little bit better look to the stitch. But you can see even though we've sewn 12 already, there's a ton of them that we haven't tried. And we've got enough bobbin thread. And if Sibel also wants to chime in as the owner and pick some more stitches as well, that would be awesome. But I can't let go of the back because then the thread might topple off. It's actually kind of being good right now. I hope it doesn't drop. Don't drop, don't drop, don't drop, don't drop. So the stitches we've done so far, as you're looking at these, we've done GR, we've done IP, we've done JP, we've done HO, we've done FQ, we've done FR, we've done EQ, we've done HL, we've done JL, we've done BM, we've done BR. I feel like I want to say bingo. Bingo! So those are all the ones that we've done. We've done 12 stitches so far. But if anyone else, if no one else chimes in and says they want to see either a combination stitch or a primary pattern, then we can just wrap this up. I mean, that's fine. We can wrap it up, and because we've been running a good hour and almost 40 minutes already. But I'm sure someone out there, we've got about 9 people right now, 9 folks that are on this live stream. There's probably someone else that would like to see another pattern. There's just a pattern that they're looking at and they're going, boy, I'd really like to see that pattern. And even if we've sewn it already, I'll sew it again. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think the owner has a problem with that as well. So it's up to you guys. Tell you the one I'm curious about is the McDonald's one down here, the GR one. I don't think, we already did GR. Emma picked GR. That was the first one. So, at any rate, these are the patterns. Those are the patterns. All right, so I'm going to flip that back down before the thread falls off. Any other? So, looks like even if you have the built-in stitches, I understand you have more versatility of stitch widths if you use the fashion discs. That's true, because then you're working within the specialty setting, Paula. Yeah, you would have a little bit more discretion on the red lever with working with the fashion discs for sure. I must have run our music out here. Let's see. Holiday. Oh, we'll put on. So we'll be rebels. Put on some jazz and blues now. Jazz and blues. You guys might be getting a little bit tired, so we'll put on some jazzy music now. Yeah, I believe that that's correct, Emma. 80 stitches sounds about right. And again, when you get into variations with the primary ones where you can go between adjusting the red lever to 3 to 2, you can get even more variations of the stitches that way, or adjusting your stitch length and changing the look of the stitches as well. So, but I'm not seeing any other. I mean, I showed you all the patterns that we haven't done yet, and no one is chiming in saying, hey, let's do this one. So let me see if I can maybe pick one that we haven't done yet. So we did primary patterns. We did BRBM. So I think I'll do BN. BN. We didn't do BN. We'll do BN. And I'm seeing if there's any other ones that kind of look cool. BR we did, BM. Almost have one that looks like a similar to the combination we did with the mountain range. I think I'll do BP too. We'll do BP, BN, and BQ. And then we'll stop unless somebody else chimes in and says they want to see something else. So we're going to do 3 more primary patterns. 3 more primary patterns. We'll do BN first, then we'll do BP, not the gas station, and then we'll do BQ. Okay, so let's set it up for BN. We're already set on B over here. We're going to move this one over to N. We'll do this one next. This will be BN, and then we'll go into BP and BQ. All right, take up arm all the way up. Okay, so this again is another primary pattern. And I don't know, my light's on. Maybe that's okay. Yeah, I've got the light on. And this already had an LED bulb in it, so I didn't even have to put an LED bulb in there, which was kind of cool. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so again, this next one is BN. Let's see what this looks like. BN. Cool. Cool. I might even move that a little bit. Bring that needle up and move this even a little bit shorter. So this is one that we just did right here on the end. And that's the lock stitch. Also spot on. I'm almost inclined at this point to flip the material the other way. Slide this down a little bit. Okay, so the next one I'm going to do is BP. These are all the ones we've done so far. Again, I think we've done 13 at this point. A baker's dozen. So let's set it for BP now. We're already set on B. Move this one over to P. That's it. All right, let's try this next one. Hope that doesn't fall off the table. I don't think it will. All right. All right, here we go. This is BP. Again, another primary pattern. Oh yeah, I like that one. I bumped it into the satin range. I think I made that a little bit too small. Those are teeny tiny stitches. Goodness gravy. I better adjust that back a little bit. Our lock stitch on the back. It's been a long day. I think I'm getting a little slappy. So this again is BP that we just sewed there. BP and BN is right next to it. Okay, so I'm going to move on to our last stitch. Unless somebody else chimes in, this will be our last stitch. I'm going to do BQ now. BQ. BQ will be our last stitch. Already set on B. We're going to move this over to Q. Just one space up. That's it. Okay, unless somebody chimes in with another stitch, and I'm looking real quick. FL looks cool. Did we already do FL? I think we did. Or didn't we? No, we didn't. I'm glad I looked at the chat because Stephen had said FL, and I missed that. So we do have another one to do after this, BQ. Let me write that down. Stephen FL. Okay, so BQ, and then we'll do Stevens FL after that. That's the only bad thing about live streams is I'm involved in other things here, and I can miss things. So yeah, don't be shy if you type something and I miss it. By all means, let me know. All right, here we go. This again is going to be BQ, one of the primary stitches. Oh, that's a fun one too, isn't it? I think they're all fun. See that one? That's one we just did. That almost reminds me of the 3-point zigzags that some of the machines that I presented to you recently do. But it's not quite a 3-point zigzag. Nope, it's not. It's not. And there's the lock stitch right back here. Just show it to you. Whoops. Let me do it like this. I don't have quite the right angle. You clip that thread and we'll look at it from a different angle. Okay. I'm going to look at it from this angle. I think it'll be a little bit easier. So this is the field of stitches that we've done on this live stream. We started all the way over here. And we worked our way all the way across the protective full grain leather to this last stitch I did just right over here. Okay, let's do Stevens stitch, and then I think we'll wrap this up because I haven't gotten anybody else chiming in as to other stitch options. So we're going to wrap it up. And again, I'd love to show you all the progress shots, but I've got 6 sets of them. And what I'll do is I'll post the link that will take you to the Facebook post I did of the progress shots. And then you can see, I really want you to understand that the process that a machine like this has to be taken through to get it to sew like this is a lot more than a general service that you would get at a basic service center. It's so much more, especially the motor work that had to be done. There we go. That's a good shot. All right, let's do, and I'm not going to show you, I'll set it off camera because you've seen me do it numerous times. I'll set the stitch that Stephen wanted to see, FL. Let's do that one last. So I just set the left one at F, and now I'll set the right one at L. All right, let's do this final stitch, and we'll wrap this up. Sibel is there. It looks like, let's see, some channels request that you type question in all caps to get your attention. Then type the actual question in standard type, not all caps. You know, I don't know if it would or not, Paula, because with something like this, if you've ever been in front of a camera and you're managing the aspects of the machine and you're trying to, make sure that you're communicating the right message and providing the right information, you're probably going to miss things even if it's in caps, especially if the chat is pretty active. Like right now with Emma and Christina, they're doing quite a bit of chatting and things can scroll off screen and I'll miss it anyway. So, but see something about Brazil. So maybe Christina is from Brazil. I'll find out afterwards. But let's do this final stitch now for our friend Stephen, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Stephen. And then we'll wrap this up. And again, if you're joining the live chat or if you join the live chat late, we're sewing with 100% silk Gutermann thread. And we're using a size 9014 Schmetz universal needle. The stitching that we've done is spectacular on Sibel's machine. But again, if you're sewing with silk, they recommend that you use a smaller needle, about a size 70 or a size 80. And they recommend using a Microtex or possibly an embroidery needle when you're using silk thread. But they also recommend that you don't sew on leather, which is what we're doing. This is protected full grain leather, about 3 to 4 ounces thick. So, oh well. All right, here goes Stephen's FL stitch that he wanted to see. Here we go. Oh yeah. That's a cool one. And I didn't look to see if FL is a primary. Yeah, FL is a combination. FL is a combination. I'm going to stitch that one more time, and here you can see it laid out. It's a beautiful stitch, but I'm just curious what it'll look like. Even though they say we're not supposed to do it, I wonder what it would look like if we. Well, I'll leave it on 3. I'll be a good boy, but I'm going to make it even a finer stitch the second time. I'll sew it one more time, and I'll move the stitch length all the way into the fine range just to see what we get. Oh, and there's the lock stitch on the back. Spot on. Yeah. And then we'll be done. And I would encourage you to circle back once I'm able to add the links, or if you want to go to the Cow Country Facebook page and check out the posts. There's 6 sets of posts, progress shots showing the stages that I took Sibel's machine through. That would be awesome, because I really want you guys to know the difference that the things I do at the workshop. Okay, so I'm going to take this way down now just for fun. We're right around here on the stitch length right now. Take that all the way up into here. Yeah, let's go for it. Right about there. See what we get, right? See what we get and not throw a fit. All right, final sew off, unless I'm going to look real quick. I don't see any other. If I miss somebody, go ahead and type it in the chat again if there's another stitch that you wanted to see. Otherwise, we're going to finish up with this one. Final stitch. And we will end right at about 2 hours. All right, here we go. Oh, wow, I went too short, too short. It's not advancing the material. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this up. We're going to have a little bit of a thing right there, and I've got to move it a little bit less fine. All right, now let's try it again. Notice how the material is advancing now. So the book says you can go all the way into the fine range, but it probably depends on the pattern. This pattern, it's saying no. Nope. Oh, you know what I did? I just broke the thread on the final stitch, which is probably not surprising considering what was happening down here. All right, we will not be daunted by this. And see, that's the only criticism that a lot of people make. Look at this. The only criticism a lot of people make is, as strong as silk thread can be, it has a tendency to unravel, which is exactly what it did on this final stitch off. So, you know what? Do I wish that it had gone just flawlessly? Yeah, sort of. When you're on camera, you want things to go flawlessly, which this entire live stream has been flawless. But on this final stitch that we're going to do, I decided to bump it all the way down into the fine range. And that silk thread said, enough is enough. Partly because I'm using a needle that it's a little bit too big for this thread. But that's the reason that they say typically quilters will never use silk thread because it has a tendency to unravel. We'll rethread it. I'll adjust the stitch length to a more reasonable range. And then we'll wrap this up. And this is actually, you know what? I actually am glad that this happened, because I can show you the threading a lot closer now, especially when the threading is going from the take-up spring here up towards the take-up arm. You want to make sure that that thread is going behind this thread guide. I've seen some videos where they've got the thread outside of this, and it really goofs up things as far as sewing. And then as we go down towards the bottom, I'm going to kind of move the camera. There's a number of thread points, and there's one right down here that a lot of people miss, and I'll show that to you. So I'm threading here now. Now I'm threading over here. And then I have one more thread point just above the needle right there, that little slat. And a lot of people just go from here straight down to the needle, but you actually want to go into that slat like so. See that? So right there, between here and there, you've got 3 threading points. It's really essential that you hit all 3. And then finally, you thread the needle, obviously, from the front to the back. Ooh, this is a fun song. This is a perfect final sew-off song if I can get this threaded soon enough. I'm bouncing in my seat. This is just like a bounce song. Okay. So ignore this little blurpy right here that we did because I had the stitch length set too low. That was my fault. I decided to be a rebel, and in this case, it didn't work out. So we're going to try that stitch one more time, but we're going to do it, and I'll actually flip the leather around so it's easier for me to do it on the end over here. Yeah, right about there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to sew the same stitch, but I'm going to move this stitch length back down to a more reasonable range. I think that's reasonable enough. I think that's, even though it's silk thread, I think we can pull that off. I hope we can pull that off. Otherwise, I'll be rethreading again, that's okay. And yes, if anyone noticed, I am wearing long pants now, December 1st, but I do have my Holy jeans on. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to try sewing that same stitch, the FL, but this time I'll be less of a rebel and I won't set it quite as fine. So hopefully we can get it done this time. Here we go. That was still a little bit too fine for that silk thread. You see it frayed again and it started to break. So silk thread is a little bit tricky to work with. It almost was at a breaking point. See where right there? Look at the edge. It started to stretch and it was starting to unravel. So if you work with silk thread, I like the look of that a lot better. And if we were using polyester thread, we could tighten that up significantly more. But with the silk thread, if we try to go to, this was our first attempt. This was our second right here, which I love the look of that more, but we're at a breaking point almost right there with that silk thread. That's as far as we can go. So to answer Paula's remark as well, yes, the cams on the specialty setting give you a little bit more flexibility on setting that red lever, but also the thread selection as well. We're using silk thread right now. We go any further than this, it's going to break again, just like it did right here. But that is beautiful stitching, isn't it? If I flip it over, we've also got beautiful lock stitching as well on both of those rows, other than my little hiccup there. So I would consider this an absolute success, an absolute success. And again, silk thread is a tricky thread to work with. It can be. But other than me pushing that stitch length, this is what we just did on this live stream. On Sibel's 1961 Singer 401A. We started all the way over here. And we had a blast going through all of these stitches. All of these stitches. Even our thing here where I went too short on the stitch length, we still got some beautiful outcomes in the end. So there you go. If you ever thought about a 401A, it's a fabulous machine, as you can see. And I know Sibel's going to have a lot of fun with it. Whether she tries to stick with silk thread or goes to a polyester or goes to a Kevlar or goes to any other thread choice that there might be out there. There's so many choices of thread, aren't there? Even 100% cotton thread too. Matter of fact, that makes me think I probably should pick up some cotton thread from Joann's and try 100% cotton thread as well. Yeah. But in the meantime, I'm going to do a little bit. I got to turn this up, you guys. I can't help. I've been good the whole time. Sibel, you got a great machine. Got a great machine. Yeah. It's even got rhythm. Look at that rhythm. All right. I'll be good. I'll be good. I'll be good. It's impossible. Fabulous stitching. Again, our setup is 100% silk thread made by Gutermann with a 9014 universal needle. Yep. So you can try the same thing on your 401, or if you have another slant-o-matic, you can certainly try it, say on a 403 or a 503A or a 500A. Yeah. Try doing some of these, similar stitches. See what you think of it. See what you think of silk thread. 100% silk thread. Yeah, it is. Still have a lot of thread left, too. All right. Well, you all have a good evening and have a great weekend. If you didn't notice already, on Saturday morning, I'm going to be showing the machine on the other workbench that I took from bare metal as a rust pit to what I would consider to be a museum quality machine now that's going to be heading to Texas, and a machine that is going to become a treadle machine as well. Matter of fact, I'll be good. I'm just going to go over a little bit of it. There it is over there. There it is. Yeah. And isn't that yeah, that's the Tiffany pattern. The Tiffany pattern over there. Yeah, you'll see it up close when we get together on Saturday morning, 8:30 Central Time. And it's going to be a live chat, but it's going to be a pre-shoot. I've already shot the video for it. So there you go. All right. I didn't look at the chat. Thanks for another great live stream. See everyone next time. Good night. Great machine. It is a great machine, Aaron. I agree. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Emma, for making Christina feel welcome. And if I understood correctly, and I wasn't watching the chat, I think Christina is from Brazil. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys Saturday morning. Hope you can make it.